Hi, welcome to... Fuck, I forgot which one we were doing because you didn't put... welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show, a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host, Jonathan, a.k.a. Hobo Cop, and I'm joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, my droog, Vincent.
A.k.a. I'm not a children of the Korn. I'm a child of the Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst is my father.
I feel so bad for you. Because we all know that he only did it for the nookie.
I was hoping you didn't have a Limp Bizkit reference in mind.
Oh,
I was gonna think
I was born. My music taste was because of my older brother, born out of new metal. So I have all the references.
a child crafted out of new metal, scorched in fire. This is episode 107 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Miami Memories, just Alex Cameron reminiscing on Ace Ventura.
It's an okay movie. It's not Jim Curry's best.
Jim Curry? It's not Tim Curry's best. You want to know what Tim Curry's best is? Is this.
And that's why
See,
I said it.
You said I couldn't.
I said it that way in the hopes that you would follow through, and you did. It's not Jim Curry's best.
It's Tim Curry's best. Today we're going over Hobo Johnson's latest album, The Fall of Hobo Johnson, Alex Cameron's latest record, Miami Memory, and Korn's. They do something.
On the
Actually,
nothing.
they don't do anything.
They do
just
nothing because the album's called The Nothing.
They're nothing. They just sit there quietly for about like 3 minutes.
Every once in a while, you can hear Brian cough.
I'm just like, wow, you better get that cough checked out.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
You got asthma? Every once in a while, you just hear somebody do an inhaler. Nobody knows who it is. Might be the producer. Nobody knows.
Before we start, if you want to follow the Anthony and Todd Show, you can do so by going to @Anthony and Todd on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can subscribe to us at YouTube, youtube.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. And you can find us in audio form on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and Spotify by searching the Anthony and Todd Show.
And if you want to hear us talk about movies, possibly including Ace Ventura,
you can find us at youtube.com/Is It a Film. Also, if you want to support the show monetarily, in the hopes that I can buy a jet ski one day.
Fuck you, jet ski.
You can support us monetarily at patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show.
Can we do something other than a jet ski?
No. 2 jet skis.
No.
Or 1 jet ski and we split it in half so we each have a piece of the jet ski to remember each other by. Okay. Well, Jonathan, are you homeless? That's the best transition I can come up with.
That was the best you could come up with?
Yeah, it was either, are you homeless, but also your dick's out? And people only call you by your dick. That's the best.
I'm Mike Penis. I'm named after my dad's penis.
Time to go over the latest Hobo Johnson album, The Fall of Hobo Johnson. Hobo Johnson is a Sacramento rapper, singer-songwriter, vocalist, and frontman of Hobo Johnson and the Lovemakers.
I don't even know why anybody bothers to remember the Lovemakers part. He only ever puts Hobo Johnson on everything.
Yeah, it's like a Carvile and the Violators type deal. And who in early 2018 released a video entry for NPR's Tiny Desk contest performing Peach Scone, which showcased his unique mixture of manic spoken word and his self-deprecating personality. The video went viral along with his previous album, The Rise of Hobo Johnson. And here we are, 2019. Hobo Johnson being one of the front runners of this weird crossroads between hip hop and alternative.
Yeah.
And Hobo Johnson surprised me last year with that single because I thought there's some crossover appeal that I think a lot of people are really interested in because people usually like that mixture of hip-hop and alternative, and we've been getting a weird mixture about it recently.
And then Logic happened, and everybody said, yeah, let's never do that again.
Yeah, Logic, and then we also got 93 Punk.
And then people did it again, and we got 93 Punks.
So I was really interested to see where this like crossover styles was because I think he was a very manic personality, and I wanted to know if that would stay par for the course because at some point I feel like he was going to run out of energy because he had 3 juice pouches and he was reckless. So I wanted to see if he was going to crash after the 3 juice pouches.
The sugar high came down.
Sugar high came down. And I think for this album, I think it kind of follows suit to that weird-ass metaphor I just made. Because I think for the most part, it starts off pretty strong. But I think in the end, he kind of loses focus of what makes him so interesting.
I think he does and doesn't, because he keeps a lot of the self-deprecating and a lot of the like somber, like reminiscing about relationships, but he kind of moved past the whole like why will nobody date me thing to like, oh, this is why nobody will date me, where he's actually he's always had self-reflection, but it's always seemed self-reflection with like a little bit of a filter of like him trying to not see himself as the bad guy. And now he's kind of like taking a step back and kind of recognizing where he sometimes is the bad guy.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of moments on here that are very smart, but I also think there are moments on here that are just like, I think he's trying to empathize with things that I'll just get to the moment. The Ode to Justin Bieber.
Yeah, that's my least favorite track.
So he's trying to empathize with Justin Bieber because Justin Bieber, basically on the theory that, or not the theory, but the idea that we kind of created Justin Bieber because the rise of stardom at any age is kind of a thing that can fuck up people and make them mentally unstable. So there's an idea where he's trying to empathize with Justin Bieber and kind of compare it to his own life where, when Justin Bieber was like 13 and throwing eggs, Hobo Johnson was throwing rocks at people. Similar metaphor or similar personality or similar mistake.
But different attention.
Because of fame.
Yeah.
So... But also, one thing I don't like about that idea is you can apply it to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Basically anyone, including our current president, Donald Trump. You can apply the same metaphor for him, and it isn't good.
Yeah, but we already metaphor for him, and it's President Cockroach.
So there's also another idea, another moment I'm not too proud of, or not too happy with, is You and the Cockroach, because I feel like it seems too Tumblr-esque. It's like I hate that to use that phrasing, but it seems too cheesy.
It's kind of cheap, but it's one of his funnier moments on here. This album is notably a lot more somber than a lot of his previous work. Like even Peach Scone had like some like happy moments, but then you have like tracks on here just like Sorry My Dear, which is just pure like depression. And then like even with I Want a Dog, where it has like these weird comments of like, oh, I want my dog to star in my films and to talk to me. It's just kind of like sad realization that nothing he wants will ever really be there.
Or the fact that he wants his family, and more the idea that maybe you should just get a dog because he can actually control that instead.
Yeah.
That bigger idea. I think it's actually pretty smart. I like the idea of him coming to terms with someone moving away, a mover aware. I love the line, you turn my Ruby Tuesdays into Benihanas.
Yeah.
Because Ruby Tuesdays is trash. They cost like $15 for an entree. Yeah. And it's like the shittiest entree you'll ever eat.
Yeah. But that song also has like some of the moments where I was talking about how he's kind of being more self-reflective, because he's talking about like fear the man or the woman who does this, and he says fear the man who doesn't understand there's more fish in the sea, and they're like, that's kind of a reference to the fact that he's kind of had this whole like, oh, there's what am I going to do if this one person doesn't like me, and this type of phase, kind of like not being stupid anymore about it.
Uglykid's a really nice moment because it has this great trumpet in the background that kind of dominates it, very brassy and nice.
And he then highlights it by pointing out, listen to this fucking trumpet, oh my god.
But I like it because it's kind of him reminiscing on how he's kind of matured and how he's always kind of be an ugly kid, and how you kind of have to deal with certain aspects of yourself and deal with them up front, which I really like. I like the empty kind of atmosphere, but I think he also kind of does it a little bit too much on moments like Moonlight and Happiness. I feel like it's empty. It's very kick heavy. I don't care for it that much.
It's empty, and it doesn't work as well as Moonlight, but I think it works kind of with Happiness's very somber sound, like themes, because he's talking about how basically he's recognizing that he's never going to be a better person. He's only possibly going to get worse, and because of that, this person should leave him behind because that's the only way they'll be able to be happy.
Some other moments in production not too keen with is February 15th. Very live, twangy guitar,
which I think, like that's how the song was
for a live set. It's a live set, but also it's not really too appetizing on the ear.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Also, what is it? Not, I wanted to say Barcelona, but that's not the Spanish influence on Ode to Justin Bieber. I can't think of the style. I don't know. The very Latin flair of Ode to Justin Bieber really comes through, and it's really annoying to make that track even more annoying, where I think Hobo Johnson is just way too loud. And I think on the end, I'm just kind of confused on the mix of things because I feel like he has a really strong start, but it kind of falls through because I feel like we're almost getting too much of him on this project.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple like handful of like tracks. Like February 15th was already pretty much a single.
Yeah.
Long before this of like a live thing. You could have just kept it that way and it would have made no difference. Maybe do what you did with Peach Scone where you like made an actual studio version of it later. It didn't need to be on this album. Oh, the Justin Bieber's just pretty blatantly like the weakest link on this whole album. And so like if you pretty much removed those 2 tracks, I feel like this album would have been just super strong because even going from like All in My Head to Sorry My Dear makes a lot of sense.
I can understand why you think that, but for me, I feel like we're missing some key component. I don't know what it is, but I feel like something is lacking to where it just seems more like an emo focused writing style.
There's not much,
I don't think really works for him because there's an element or atmosphere that something is missing.
There's a lot of like his former like rapping stuff that's not here anymore. Like you have Subaru Crosstrek,
which is an amazing track.
It's a fucking great track
about him talking about how he just bought a Subaru Crosstrek and talks about how he like is dealing with his own like self-deprecating qualities, and also how he encounters a someone with road rage, and their child sees that he's just a piece of shit.
And like the whole like buying a Lamborghini is just like a very clear like desperate attempt to fill like an insecure void.
Yeah, but he brags up the fact that he bought a Subaru Crosstrek, so like something that's
pretty base. Like it's more high end, but like it's not that high end.
Yeah. High end to me.
Well, me too.
Yeah, I like ideas on this, but I feel like once we get into the second half, it just becomes a little bit too much, and there's a key element of what makes this first half work so well for me that is missing. I think moments like You and the Cockroach or Justin Bieber's February 15th, Sorry My Dear, All in My Head, I
really like You and the Cockroach. I think it adds a lot more like humor to an album that's dealing much more with heavier themes. It's a nice little moment of levity.
All in My Head has some really terrific female vocals, female vocal systems, which is really nice. That actually builds a nice bit of intensity to the track, which I think is really cool, but I'm just not too keen on some of the repeating themes that are appearing on this album. Keep in mind those scores. If you tell me those right now, I'm feeling a 6. I like elements. I just feel like
high 6, low 7.
Yeah,
I think it's all in all like it's definitely a really good album. It's probably one of my favorites of this week.
Yeah,
actually, probably is my favorite of this week.
You don't like Korn?
I don't like Korn. I haven't liked Korn since I was a 13-year-old.
So last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like on the second half, just something is missing for me, and I don't really know what it is.
I think it's energy.
Yeah.
The second half gets a lot slower, except for Ode to Justin Bieber, where it's the wrong kind of energetic.
Yeah. But yeah, we're moving past that. Are you ready to remember Miami?
I'm just ready to remember
one
Ace Ventura.
One specific memory of Miami. Just one.
The only memory I have of Miami is flying over Miami to get somewhere else.
And that's Miami in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Time to go over Alex Cameron's latest project, Miami Memory. Alex Cameron is an Australian singer-songwriter who has this weird-ass character that incorporates this fallen entertainer persona, someone who's just down on their luck, but someone who is also very toxic masculinity-wise, toxic with their masculinity. I don't know, I said that in weird ways, but he's on his last project, Force Witness, which kind of was his big debut for a lot of people finally getting to Alex Cameron. It incorporated a lot of his humorous has-been character traits with depth-filled scenarios, all performed to the cheesy 70s and 80s pop production. There's some terrific tracks like Stranger's Kiss, which is a duet with Angel Olsen, where it's essentially Angel Olsen and Alex Cameron struggling with a relationship, but in the end, Angel Olsen is just essentially telling Alex Cameron that he just has to deal with the pain, and there's nothing else he can do. You have moments like True Lies, where Alex Cameron is cheating on his girl by talking to someone romantically in a chat room, and he doesn't care who it is. He even acknowledges the fact that it might be some just Nigerian dude on the end, but he sends some nice poetry, and they have beautiful eyes. Also, Stud Muffin 96, where this essentially teenager is kind of only latching on to Alex Cameron for like money and essentially just property. But Alex Cameron actually believes in the relationship, even though it's kind of one-sided, and is waiting for them to become of age so they can actually date. It's a really interesting concept. There's a lot of ideas of toxic masculinity that are spread out through, and I think it actually works. I think the biggest fault of that album is that the production didn't land out. I think it was very repetitive production-wise, and there was a lot of the same saxophone performance throughout that kind of got really bugging. But I do like the cheesiness of it. It fits this has-been character. It makes sense, but I think it just kind of became one-note production and didn't back them. On this, I think it's a little bit better. It's also a little bit more basicer, which I think it actually helps this kind of has-been persona as well. This new album is essentially more about Alex and his relationship with his 3-year relationship with his girlfriend. So it focuses more on the actual person instead of the character at times, which there's still moments that I feel like are just character, which confuse me because I don't know what in this is more than just character.
Yeah,
there's some weird tonal whiplash that I don't really understand.
That was kind of the one thing. I was like, I could sometimes tell when like when something was like being clearly like more sarcastic or more like satirical, like Gaslight or Bad for the Boys, where it's like making a point with like the character.
Yeah.
But then like it kind of makes moments of like PC with me and like divorce harder to tell. Like, is this satire or is this like actual self-reflection? Because like Miami Memory is like clearly him actually remembering.
Miami Memory is this fantastic electronic drum backing, some great synth pop on this track, but it's essentially just Alex Cameron, the person, reflecting on his relationship with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there's some absurd things to it, like his girlfriend wears a bald cat and is dancing, and also who can forget the line, eating your ass like an oyster, the way you came like a tsunami. Like,
great
that's
line.
just a very weird out of the blue line that isn't really built to. That's, I think, demonstrates some of the quirk of Alex Cameron's character.
Yeah.
But I feel like I like the track. I wish that it and some of the themes on this album and some of the recurring nature weren't on this record, because I feel like they feel better as one-offs or even like things he could perform during live sets than more like things that relate to this album. Because this album really, in its whole, it's about love, but it's also, it's not, it kind of phases between reality and narrative.
It's about love, but it's like almost a satirical like focus where like each one's kind of like focusing on like different aspects of it. And like Stepdad is like this weird like take on like paternal love, even if you're not technically the parent.
Yeah, it does. So on Stepdad, Alex Cameron is kind of this kind of, how would you call it, grody stepdad.
Yeah.
That's finally had an outing with his mother, with the stepmom, and they're getting splitting up, and he's explaining to his stepdaughter how he's leaving, but it doesn't really make any sense. Like they're fighting, like I understand what's happening, he's leaving, but it doesn't, like the conversation they're having doesn't really have a purpose, and it's just more of like he's telling her to respect her mother, but she's like, there's no other purpose of the conversation than that, and that's only like a one line insert that they had. Like the rest of the conversation seems pretty pointless to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's like talk of like, don't forget the advice I've told you, and like, even if people are like kind of like shitting on me as a human being, like just remembering, no, I'm still your stepdad, and
yeah, but
it's kind of the sense like I'm leaving you, but I still care, and
I have a hard time finding the point.
Yeah.
Beyond that, like there doesn't seem a purpose, because a lot of these other tracks, they do have a point beyond that. Like even Miami Memory, it's this nice nostalgia for their relationship, and he's able to find comfort in this one. Like in the relationship in form of, it's just this ongoing memory, which is interesting. But for some of these tracks actually have some like really great ideas behind them.
Far From Born Again,
which is essentially about this porn star who at the end of the day doesn't have to put up with anyone's shit, because she's allowed to do whatever she wants, and she's making a living how she's making a living, and it doesn't matter.
It's none of your goddamn business what she does to pay.
And it's like, it's a great simple idea. There isn't anything past that. Gaslight is another great simple idea, how essentially Alex Cameron is gaslighting his partner, and it's terrible, but it's really interesting into how some abusive relationships work with another partner, gaslighting the other one.
And because of the like throwback sounds he has, it kind of like throws some old school like romance songs and like, oh yeah, it's
all bullshit.
It's bullshit. It's kind of fucked up, actually.
He's constantly telling her, I'll just go over some of the lines. I know you like your mama does. You need help like a baby does, and all these so-called friends are lying where they tell you your life's changed for the better. Hear me out. I'm a nice guy. In the night, use my gaslight.
Yeah.
He's just constantly leading her the wrong way. The gaslight actually becomes a physical gaslight, which is kind of interesting, instead of just a metaphorical gaslight, which is kind of cool. Bad for the Boys is a nice look into to a bunch of people who suffer with toxic masculinity and the faults of each. And Alex Cameron showing sympathy for her, but then realizing the sympathy is not deserved and taking it back.
She's like, I never thought I'd feel bad for the boys. They get the end. It's like, oh, I guess I don't feel bad for the boys.
Yeah, we got poor Jack. That was a slack. He took his bat and hit his girl bat. So, like, these are just some fucked up people. And he's finally, I think it's kind of, it's a display of toxic masculinity and how they may do things that are wrong and you could still have, like, sympathy for a person. But at the end of the day, they're still fuck ups. Like, you don't need to feel sympathy for them, even though they're hitting hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think PC with me is actually it's shitty, but I like it because I think it's the Republican woman's anthem.
Yeah.
Because just the one line alone on the chorus is, she said, you don't have to be so PC with me because the meaner they are, the harder I fall in love.
It reminds me of this like news article I saw where it's like alt-right women are surprised that alt-right men treat them like shit. I was like, yeah, no fucking duh. Of course they're going to treat you like crap. They treat everyone like crap.
Yeah, but like those are the highs. But like for remainder moments, like End is Nigh, Divorce, Other Ladies, Too Far, it's hard to kind of get the point. We'll get some interesting character work.
I mean, you kind of I get a little bit of the point of Divorce where it's like it's presented as like super victorious, like I'm out of here, but then it's like pointing out like everything he has going forward from this is really shitty. Like talk about like I have that motherfucking futon.
Yeah. But like End is Nigh has some good character work where he's stumbling around drunk as I think one of his exes appears to stay for the weekend, and this one guy calls him out on cheating with his girlfriend, but he says it can't be me because I can't get it up.
Yeah.
And also him saying how can I be drunk, or
how can I be hungover if I'm still fucking drunk?
Yeah. I like the reference to Tim Allen on Other Ladies because I think Tim Allen is this person associated with this type of character that I like. Yeah. I think it's just it's very fitting that there's a name drop on the track Other Ladies. On Too Far, I understand it's supposed to be this like coming together moment. Alex Cameron's worried about his girlfriend cheating on him, and I'm just still kind of confused on the segment because it's like there's this third person and he's worried that this third person is going to essentially just take his girlfriend away.
Yeah, it's like an ex that like he's worried is like still involved, but kind of ends with this like declaration that like it doesn't really matter to him what was in the past anymore, just so long as like he's just going to cherish the amount of time that he gets with her.
Yeah, but the problem I have with it is it's missing like a third act.
Yeah,
we get the declaration, which is like a nice closing moment.
Missing like the second act. Like we have the setup and then we have the end. Like it doesn't matter what happened. Like there's no like explanation of like how they went from like his constant worrying to like everything's going to be okay. It's just kind of like the first act, we're missing like 2 reels of film, and then the third act.
Because the way the declaration reads or like sounds to me is it comes off as he's just okay with his girlfriend being fucked by her ex. I know that's not what he's implying, but
like, because there's no second act, we don't know what the fuck happened. All we have is like, is she gonna fuck her ex? And it's like, yeah, I'm okay. Whatever you do, it's like, oh, okay.
I don't, but like, I don't think that's a problem if that's what he means. Yeah. But also, I know that's not what he means.
Yeah, it's missing. It's a song that just is missing something, which is weird because it's like one of the longer tracks on this album.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is I'm getting tonal whiplash between reality and fiction and parody.
Yeah.
And what should be like dramatic stakes.
Yeah, there's like really good moments on here. Like even technically all the moments are like pretty good. It's just that they feel like they're from two different projects.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It's when I'm listening to this, it's just like, again, that tonal whiplash. That is the biggest factor.
Yeah.
I think this one is way more productionally sound. I think it actually gets into different territories of electropop and synth pop, electropop, but also some like very nostalgic 70s pop, which is really interesting. And I think the cheese factor running through these instrumentations at times is really good.
Yeah.
And it fits that background, that like cloudy, nostalgic background. But I think the biggest problem is just the writing, because when something's good, it hits it on the head perfectly.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, it misses the nail by like a mile. I think that's the biggest problem.
I don't think it never misses like that far. I can pretty much get the point from each of these. It's just kind of hard the first couple listens to be like, okay, is this one satire? Is this one real? And that's the issue. Is that it doesn't have a consistency with like viewpoint, and it makes reading some of these tracks harder to do. And the first like couple listens, they have to like go for like, okay, I think this one is satirical, so what does that mean? And then like, I think this one's serious, so what's that mean? I don't think it ever like, other than maybe like Too Far, where it's missing that second act of the song, I don't think it's ever like too far from the mark. It's just, it's the tonal whiplash that makes it hard to read the first couple times.
I think moments like Other Ladies and Divorce, it's hard to, like, I understand what he's going for, but I just don't think there's like any real purpose to the track really being in existence.
Yeah. Sometimes. I enjoyed them. They all sound good. I enjoyed Divorce. I think Divorce is a fun track. Especially if that fucking white chorus line of just like that motherfucking futon couch. A line about how he has like 3 weeks of constipation because all he's been eating is Spam.
Keep in mind, though, scores futon meaningless right now. I'm feeling a big old 6 on this.
6.5.
Yeah. I think it's, in a weird way, I think this is better than what was it? I can't think of the album. Force Witness. I think it's better in a comparison, but also at the same time, I think there's aspects that lower it than I enjoyment.
It was more focused.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is like even though I didn't like some of the production in the second half, I think Cameron's personality was the same throughout. It became way easier just to sit through. Yeah. It grew on me after a little while. Yeah, that's it. Now it's time to do nothing.
Yep.
Sit back.
Sit back.
Time to go over Korn's latest album.
Brian's here?
Brian? Oh, because you coughed. Okay, I got the call back. That was good. Time to go over Korn's latest album. The nothing. Just 30 minutes, 44 minutes of just nothing. Silence.
The one thing I can say about this is, thank God it's shorter than Slipknot and a Tool.
Yeah. Korn. Bakersfield, California, new metal band, popularized new metal in the late 90s, early 2000s with acts like Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, and System of a Down.
One of these bands is actually good.
Yeah, it's Limp Bizkit.
I was going to say System of a Down.
They blew up in popularity with 1998's Follow the Leader, with tracks like Freak on a Leash, Got the Life, and Who Can Forget? Children of the Corn, featuring Ice Cube.
It's hard. To be fair, it's hard to forget.
Did I tell you the story about how me and my friend would essentially just troll one another with these tracks? We would just
and I told you how I used to do the same thing to one of my friends with it was a Blink 182 song, the one the spiders one,
the one where he's talking about aliens.
No, that's
all tonal. It's tonal.
Fuck. I miss you.
Oh.
I used to troll my friends with that song because he hated it.
No, but what my friend did to me is one time I was sleeping at his house and I was on the floor and he put a Bluetooth speaker right next to my ear and blared this and I shit myself waking up. This is the first serious key point time. What makes the nothing I think interesting, at least in the lives of the band members of Korn, is this is the first album recorded after the deaths of lead singers Jonathan Davis's wife and his mother, and that's kind of the backdropping of this is dealing with pain and the suffering and essentially mourning. The mourning process is the backbone.
It's so weird because I did used to listen to this band because, again, like I said, I was born out of the 90s like metal and like 2000 shit, because that's what the people who were older than me and had control of the radio listened to. But like Korn has always made their music about trauma, specifically Jonathan Davis's trauma, and sometimes other members, but mostly Jonathan, because like he was like horribly abused as a child, and like he's dealt with like loss of like a lot of things, and that was the one thing I like always like gave them props for. Is like you could feel his pain. I don't feel it as much on this album.
I can explain why you don't. So there's a thing called empathy, and it's a thing that isn't always just given. You have to kind of earn it, and sometimes it can be easy, sometimes it can be hard. So this album sets you up right at the gate. The end begins essentially just talking about Jonathan suffering. Not this Jonathan.
Yeah.
The band's Jonathan.
Can we just do Davis's? I'm sorry, that's going to make this a lot easier.
Davis is suffering, but it's just kind of abstract lyricism, and then it just gets to him crying. But it's also in this like interlude like segment where it's kind of large scale, so like nothing really stands out. Or actually seems personable. Yeah, which is one thing you have to kind of receive empathy.
Yeah, that is one thing. Those albums like Themes of Darkness are a lot more like broad and abstract, whereas they used to be a very, very like specific and detailed. Like one of their like biggest songs, I can't remember the title of it now, but was specifically about like Javis's like specific situations of abuse, and it ends like in their studio recording. It ends with him literally having like a full blown meltdown and like breakdown in the recording booth, and they just recorded it. And obviously they don't do that song live for obvious reasons, because that's something you literally can't replicate easily. Get up here.
Why are you pulling on the headphones, John?
Because it falls and then it pulls on my ears, my giant ass ears. So, and yeah, this album is just, the lyricism is very
basic.
And
it's also like, it could be applied to like anything because it's empathetic, and not to say it has to be about this one particular subject.
But presentation
appeals to that one particular subject.
And I think the other issue of this album is that they're trying a lot of new things here.
Do they? Because
they're still very clearly like Korn. They still have that weird warbly bass thing that they fucking do. They still have like the basics of like, they're just like, how do you play the bass? And like he just starts slapping the shit out of it. Like everything is still very much Korn, but there's a lot more like prog elements and atmosphere. They do a fucking weird like attempt at arena rock in like part of the first song. There's a lot of weird track progression elements.
Yeah, it's almost like Poor Person's Tool.
Yeah, it's them trying.
Poor Person's Slipknot.
Yeah, they're trying progressive like new metal again, which is something I've always like both respected and disliked Korn for. Is they're willing to try new things, like Path of Totality, where they just like, hey, what if new metal was also dubstep?
Was that the one with Slipknot? Or no, that's Slipknot. Skrillex. Yeah.
And like, while I appreciate them trying to push new metal out of the 90s and then maintain relevancy, they're not the band to do it because they're not smart enough to do it. They have an element that they're really good at for the 90s, and they stuck with it really well for the 90s, and they got a fan base that still gives a shit about that. And then they've just kind of kept trying to maintain relevancy by trying new things that's way outside of their wheelhouse.
Yeah, Davis's voice on this sometimes comes off as yelpy. Sometimes it comes off of Poor Person's Maynard
and
Tool.
Poor Person's Corey Taylor from Slipknot.
But like he tries to be like distant and ambient. Ambient? That's not a word.
Ambient.
Not ambient. Ambiguous. Kind of like distant, shadowy figure. Kind of like what Maynard does, is because he puts distance between the mic, and it kind of makes him a little bit more
forgetting
lucid.
That Korn blew up because of a track called Freak on a Leash, where he's literally just saying the mic, just boom, like that's what they fucking do.
Yeah,
and they do it
on here
relatively well.
Here they're trying out these weird vocal performances, and they're just not working.
There's like a fucking moment where he's doing like, it sounds like fuck, I had the word for it and I lost it.
Was it ambient?
No, it's like where everything is a cappella.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to do like a vocal a cappella bit in the background for some fucking reason. Again, he tries like Queen-esque arena rock. Jonathan Davis thinks he can match Freddie Mercury at arena rock.
A lot of people think they can nowadays.
Because people are stupid. Nobody can match Freddie Mercury for Freddie Mercury's vocal range because literally his vocal range makes no scientific sense to most people.
Well, Queen thinks they can just hire another singer and then just produce new music.
Well, that's because everybody but Freddie Mercury and Queen can eat a butt.
But one of them's a rocket scientist.
And he can eat 2 butts for being that stupid while having a fucking doctorate.
Yeah, I think a lot of... there's at least 2 notable moments where I think that's just, like, decent for new metal tracks.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're tolerable. You'll Never Find Me and Harder. I don't think they're good.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
But,
like, as much as I've shat on this album, this is one of Korn's better albums. and that's sad, but, like... like their debut was still is for new metal a very good album. I'm prefacing for new metal, but like they've had some fucking lows. Path of Totality, everything they did after Brian came back the first time, everything they did while Brian was gone. Brian's solo career was also a very low moment. But, like, for Korn, this is actually one of their better albums. And honestly, it's because they're trying experimentation that's closer to their wheelhouse this time. They're not trying to fucking do dubstep. They're trying
I kind of wish they would.
No. Did you listen to Path of Totality?
I know what tracks you're referencing.
No, like that whole album is dubstep.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's not like a moment. That whole album is new metal techno mix. Like, that wasn't, like, a weird, like, oh, that's a weird track. That's a fucking album of that shit.
I knew it was a couple tracks.
No, it's the whole fucking album. That's why literally every album has a feature from a techno artist.
God damn it. But, like, part of me, like, I like when people make, like, the biggest mistakes possible. Like, 93 Punk, that's the biggest.
That is a very big mistake.
And it's, like, it's not entertaining, but it's
interesting.
It's way more interesting to talk about. Like when they're applying more things to their wheelhouse, it's way less interesting for us to still shit on them.
Yeah,
because at least it's like it's more normal. It's the more sane pick. Like when I complain about something, I'd rather it just be like something insane than I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but like these are just like some uninteresting new metal tracks.
Yeah, it's a weird decision from this band. There's like some really weird like track progressions in this album. Like there'll be a song like, oh, this song's over, and then it starts up but like with no like rebuild or anything to like get you like, oh, this song's still going. It's just like, and here's the chorus again, by the way, after some silence. Yeah, and also every album like begins and ends like the same way. For how like weird their progression can be, their beginnings and the ends are always the same.
Yeah. One thing I can say full heartedness is that I miss Fred Durst.
I don't, because like as much as I hate Limp Bizkit, and as much as like Korn.
Actually, no, I have a Limp Bizkit CD over there.
As much as
I don't hate Limp Bizkit, I ironically like Limp Bizkit.
I hate Limp Bizkit. As much as Korn isn't like a good band, they're a tolerable new metal band. They're a new metal band that if it comes on the radio because my iPod's not working or my phone's dead, I'm not going to just like, oh, skip this, which is what I do for most songs on the radio because then most of them suck. I'm like, oh, okay, I can tolerate this.
Yeah, this is tolerable, but also it seems like its biggest moment, like its biggest mistakes aren't interesting. And that's
fair. This is no Children of the Corn feat Ice Cube.
Yeah, like they're like, and that's why I say I miss Fred Durst, because at least Limp Bizkit was loud and obnoxious, and it had an energy of that. This doesn't have an energy of that. Yeah. It's very held back. And I know for the subject matter,
it makes sense.
It makes sense, but also
it's this weird thing where like it's held back and that's a fault, but you almost want it to be held back more.
Yeah.
Because like they're trying to go a route, but then they're still like so attached to what makes them like Korn, like the weird warbly bass and shit, that they're not willing to make a full commitment to this.
Yeah. Keep in mind those scores are futile and meaningless right now. I'm filling out a big old 2.
I'm feeling
big old 2.
I can't. No. I can't, because I like this more than Slipknot, and I'm pretty sure I gave Slipknot a 4.
I don't care how I review shit. I just feel it with my heart, you know.
I'll give it a 4. Keep it right there, Slipknot.
Yeah.
Did I give Slipknot a 4?
I don't even remember.
Go back. Whatever I gave Slipknot, that's what I give this.
Okay, a 0.
I did not give Slipknot a 0. Zeros are reserved for 90 free punks and Logic.
And that's it for this week's episode of the Anthony.
And Iggy.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget Iggy. I wish I could. But I have post-traumatic stress disorder because of that Iggy Azalea album, so I can't. Keep in mind, though, I already did that.
You already did that, you dumbass.
Yeah. This has been this week's episode of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call...
Fuck, what did we call it?
I am not a child. I'm not a children of the Korn.
AKA idiot.
No, what was it?
Yeah, Miami Memories, just Alex Cameron reminiscing about Ace Ventura.
Yeah. If you want to follow the Anthony and Todd Show on social media, you can do so by
Why did I do that? You keep your papers in your hand.
I'm already on. Is it a film notes? I can't go back. I can't turn back the clock, Jonathan.
So if you want to see this tirade and bullshit continue, watch our upcoming new episode of Is It a Film?
Yeah.
Just look for the one where I'm still wearing the daughter shirt.
And if you want to follow the Anthony and Todd Show, you can do so by going to social media at Anthony and Todd on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on podcast services, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify, by searching the Anthony and Todd Show. Find us at youtube.com/the Anthony and Todd Show.
And Is It a Film?
And if you, that's it. Oh, if you want to support us monetarily,
no jet skis.
If you want to buy me 2 jet skis,
the only way you're allowed to buy Vincent jet skis if you give him equal amounts to buy me a jet ski.
No, I say we get 1 jet ski and we split down the middle.
I want to function.
Because that's how communism works.
I want to.
Stalin very equally gave everyone a jet ski.
No, he didn't. He gave himself a bunch of jet skis. That's how Stalinism works, because Stalinism isn't communism.
No, Stalin promised to give everyone jet skis, and then he just gave himself all the jet skis.
Yeah, and then killed people. Who questioned where the jet skis went?
No,
it's probably
killed
the jet ski salesman.
It's probably because the only crops Russia had were jet skis.
No, potatoes for vodka.
And how did he power the jet skis?
Vodka.
Yes. You find us at patreon.com/the Anthony and Todd Show. Until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I'm Jonathan.
And see you, boys.